Alright, this is a quick video on the Martin Shkreli SEC or securities violation fraud case. He was convicted of 3 of 8 counts. And this it's an interesting story because we see the low and blue collar criminals every day. We hear about them being stereotyped. Without even studying the issue, we kind of know what to expect. We basically have prejudgments about those who commit lower level crimes. We have, we can read the body languages. We can read, if there's tattoos or different things like that. It's a little bit more visible, but this is kind of similar. This case is kind of similar to a study that we did on our Facebook website concerning the how to stereotype a white supremacist. We know the whole Trayvon Martin situation with the hoodie and how they stereotype black criminals, even though he wasn't a criminal, of course, but they use that as an agenda. The stereotypes, the sagging, the hoodies, the tattoos on the arm, they're in the gang, tattoos on the neck, dark black male. Mike Brown was a tall black male. You know what I mean? So they use any stereotype to defend and justify their use of excessive force on black people as far as the police. But white collar criminals, I think this is interesting. It's not really talked about. How do we stereotype white collar criminals? Well, let me backtrack for a few seconds. When we talked about the white supremacists, most people could not identify who the white supremacist was. The only stereotype we know of is, there's a skinhead. But obviously every skinhead is not a white supremacist, or every bald white person is not a white supremacist. And every person, with hair can be. So basically, when you're looking at the white collar criminals, they have an increased, there's all kind of studies out there. Well, there's a few studies, but they're very in-depth, I'll say that, on white collar criminals. As far as their brain patterns, how they act, how they interact, they're very intelligent, obviously. They have an increased executive function in the brain, which an executive function is basically how you manage yourself. It's basically self-discipline in a nutshell, on what you're willing to do to achieve a goal. The studies say that they are doing it basically for monetary gain. There's nothing really else except for the money. They have better social skills. They know how to interact with people a lot better than maybe a low-level criminal. He may be antisocial or different things like that. So we see that these executive functions, it allows them to probably perpetrate these offenses, white-collar crime, such as they say there's 8 types: bribery, antitrust, embezzlement, false claims, mail, wire fraud, securities violation, which Mr. Shkreli committed, tax violations, and lending and credit institution fraud. Now, at the top is securities violations. There is a hierarchy of white-collar crimes, and the top is security violations, which Mr. Shkreli was committed of. The securities violations involve highly organized and repetitive multiple offenders. So there has to be some kind of plan in the educational level. And this also makes you wonder how, because generally the more educated, the more the more educated the offenders are, the more likely they are to commit these crimes and be successful at them. So it kind of makes you wonder about our educational system. Is it making smarter people, or is it making smarter criminals? But that can be a whole nother topic in itself. But when you see this story, you don't really see, he just looks like a regular white guy. You don't really see how how do you stereotype, how do you profile, what are the characteristics of white collar criminals? And on general, they, like we said before, they have executive function. That seemed to be that was the biggest factors compared to other people, was the executive function. Just self-discipline. It's how you manage your time. It's how you pay attention. That was another big thing. They don't get distracted very easily. They have tunnel vision. They're very focused. They're able to plan and organize, remember details, and the ability to multitask. So, which is what is needed to succeed in society. So it's kind of a tricky situation. But again, the offenders are more likely to be employed, better educated, own homes, and have less prior criminal records. Of course, white males. In this study, 2/3 of the fraud schemes covered in this study, the perpetrator acted alone. So I think he's the only one that went down in this situation. So let me know what you think. How do we begin to profile white criminals? If not white criminals, white collar criminals, but most of them are white. So where does that conversation even begin? Because we see police are profiling blue collar, low level criminals who tend to be poor, tend to be minorities, give or take, depending on your location. But if you're in an all-white community, that's a poor community, it's going to be a white male. So are we even able to profile and police white-collar criminals, or are they so smart? I mean, obviously they know that they can get away with it because they know how to manipulate people. The better social skills you have, yes, it's great to have social skills, but they're also going to be better manipulators. They know how to dress, they know how to play the part. And, also, do you think that being educated, having a college education makes you a smarter criminal? As far as a white collar criminal, obviously you can say that these are smarter criminals because I don't know if that's an oxymoron, but if you're committing a crime, generally you're committing a crime because you want money. So, if you committed a low-level crime, you're going to get a lower pay than a white-collar crime, obviously. So, this video is basically just a statement and to provoke maybe conversation. The statement being, how do we critique? How do we profile? How would you ever recognize a white-collar criminal? Would you know where to begin to look for one? Would any red flags go off if you notice certain behaviors, certain characteristics? And do you feel that education makes people, or that United States education makes one a smarter criminal?